Alright, welcome back. We're on part two. I've jumped already about a minute 20 into the video. Heath talked about the stuff we're going to cover in this video. So let's do this shit together. Again, I've already watched these videos one time. And yeah. Shit. My play
The
button.
first thing
There
we
go.
need to talk about is collision shapes. Collision shapes are what Buildbox uses to decide when objects interact. For example, my character looks like it hits the wall and is stopped because the collision shape of my character has collided with the collision shape of the wall. And so
Makes
without
sense.
collision shapes, the graphic for my character would just fly off the screen, and it would be no fun. So let's start with the character. In the Assets panel to the far left, select the character, and you will see the global options appear in the Options panel to the far right. Directly above the default animation, remember we replaced that default animation with sequential PNG images.
Ooh, that's not even...
So directly above
That's
the
not right.
default animation of any object in Buildbox, character or
Zoom in.
otherwise,
Yeah.
is the button for editing the collision shape.
I'm going to do that.
Let's go ahead and click on that and open the collision editor. The first thing we want to do is get our object nice and big in the editor so we can get as precise as we can. You can resize this window, so get it nice and big on your screen.
I just zoomed
Just
in.
like
I don't
any other
know why
editor
he's
in
doing.
Buildbox, the mouse scroll
I
button
think just to show the
must
capabilities.
down, and holding down the space bar while we click and drag will move the editor around. So let's get that nice and big and in the center. You'll notice almost immediately our collision shape is off. This orange shape here represents what Buildbox will use to determine if it hits something. What we want is the collision shape to match the graphic. Now clearly we have the right shape already because our character is circular and we replaced the circular graphic. So the super easy fix is to just drag it so it's centered. Just grab it in the middle, put it where you need it. But what if in video 1 we had dropped in a square graphic for our character? Let me just show you some of the options.
Yeah, these are cool, actually.
In the upper left is where we can choose between a polygon shape and the circular shape we have now. We can move the points around to get a more precise fit. We can add points. We can subtract points.
Can never be convex.
Reset the image if we've got it all messed up.
Apparently this is convex. Oh, because they're right there.
So let's go back to the circular shape. You use the middle handle to move it around and the outside handle to resize it. Now whenever I create collision shapes, I want to make sure they are just a bit forgiving.
Makes sense.
We don't run the risk of the user feeling cheated when they get killed.
Not that forgiving.
Unfair.
That forgiving.
And also, when you give the user leeway with collision shapes, they experience excitement when they have close calls. When they have that moment that they think, I can't believe I just lived through that, they experience a lift in their excitement level, making your game more fun and putting the achievement on the player. It transfers greatness onto them. So give a little leeway when designing your collision shapes, and you will increase your fun factor for your game. Alright, let's close the collision shape editor for our character and go over to the Assets panel and select the walls. Bring up their global options to the far right in the Options panel.
Right here.
And edit the collision shape. Now you can see that this one is dead on. But if we had come in here and it was off, the square graphics are usually dead on after a reset. So just use the reset button as a starting point and you'll likely be done anyway. Alright, close the editor, and now let's do the enemy graphic we dropped in for the triangle enemies. Select the enemy in the Assets panel to the far left. The global options appear in the far right in the Options panel, where we can click on Edit Collision Shape. Okay, let's get our graphic nice and big and centered. Remember, you can resize this window, taking up the whole screen if you need to. Now, you might be starting to understand. You can see the collision shape the creator cooked up for us from our original triangle enemy. You can see our triangle as it used to be before we replaced the graphic. So this is already a great starting point for us. Let's start at the top
Okay.
and leave a little leeway so people don't feel cheated and they get that excitement of a close call. Remember the mouse scroll button to zoom in and out, and hold the space bar while clicking and dragging to move it around. Let's drag this lower left one onto the corner. And now let's add a point. Buildbox is now telling us that collision shapes must be convex, meaning any angles inside the collision shape must not exceed 180 degrees. And as you can see, this inside angle has indeed exceeded a straight line. So because the character is never going to fit inside this area here without touching one of these tips, we're okay just allowing the collision shape to share the tips here. Although we are not being precise with our collision shape, that doesn't mean we can't make a composite object with more precise collision shapes. But
I don't know what that means.
For the sake of time and keeping the instructions simple, I will show you how to do that in the tips, tricks, and hacks.
Yeah, I think he fine-tunes this later, so.
Now let's select our top point and add another point.
Oh, you select the point. That's how you. Okay.
Always adds a point clockwise from the one you have selected.
Clockwise from the one.
These last two into position.
That makes sense.
In this area right here, I wouldn't want a player to hit this and think there was nothing there
to repeat, which I'm sure you heard, but I'm going to repeat it because I want to remember. When you hit add a button, it will add a point clockwise. So the one to the right, usually, of the one that is selected. Cool.
And ask, why did I just die or rage quit our game? So let's just make sure there's
rage quit
leeway for this tip here. I will show you why this works based on how we're going to face this graphic anyway. Also, keep in mind we can get precise, but I will show you that later in that tips, tricks, and hacks video. But for the sake of time and instruction, let's just give this last point here plenty of leeway. Alright, this looks good. So now let's open one final object we have in the Assets panel, our one-way platform. Let's just drop in the same graphic we did for the walls so it looks the same, but we can make it so that we can move through this object but not go back through the other way. Let's get into the collision shape of this one.
Wait. So this is the one-way block, and it said select the same platform. That's got to be it. Select block. And move it here. I mean, honestly, they look the same, but maybe... Yeah, okay, the colors are a little bit different, so they're not the same. Just in case you were wondering. Please, he's continued.
Object so I can explain a little further. Remember, hit the reset, and on most square graphics, you are likely done. Notice the big green arrow on our collision shape.
Yeah, I see it.
This denotes pass-through, and this can be turned on and off
what does that mean?
Here in the left corner next to the shape menu.
Did the other ones have
and
that?
It can be moved in any direction. So what this does is allow the character to pass through the collision shape of the object in the direction the arrow is pointing.
Oh, that just looks cool.
Good
job, you are.
For some reason, make sure the arrow is pointing in the direction you want
Wait,
the
what?
character
Sorry.
to be able to pass through. Allow the character to pass through the collision shape of the object in the direction the arrow is pointing. So if we want to pass through an object for some reason, make sure the arrow is pointing in the direction you want the character to be able to pass through, and the collision shape will be ignored by the character. In any other direction, it will hit, but in the direction of this arrow, it will be ignored and allowed to pass through. We could get really creative with this and come up with some neat game mechanics. So let's just see if this comes into play later. But at least now you're aware we have the option.
Yep.
So now that we have made sure that our collision shapes are where they should be and that they match the graphics, it's time to show you
Did this one
what
have that?
debug mode tutorials.
It did.
I had mentioned in part 1 that this button in the upper right was debug mode, and that it was...
So I just want to see if this platform has it as well. It does. Oh, but it's not selected because it's not selected because that's not part of the tutorial. Let's continue.
A more advanced feature, and it is, but now that you are familiar with collision shapes, this will make a whole lot more sense. So let's turn on debug mode. I'm sure you've already figured out what this does, and you'd be right. What debug mode does is reveal the collision shapes for all the objects in the game. Let's duplicate one of these mountain-looking enemies.
All right, so
nice and big for us to see.
I don't know if Heath mentioned this, but just in case you're keeping up, we're now on scene 1, not the start scene. And you can tell because the little player is not there. So Heath is just copying, which is the A, S, D, W, and those are like directional copies.
If I zoom in on this for you, using the mouse scroll button and holding space while I click and drag to move the scene around, you can see now that the collision shapes are exactly what we modified them to be. Not only is revealing the collision shapes a creative and helpful element of level design, it is also extremely useful for testing. At some point, and believe me, this will happen, but at some point,
I believe you
are going to get knee-deep into a game and realize you keep hitting something or falling off something, and you'll keep dying on something that you can't see, and you'll be face-planting into your keyboard, wondering what is going on, and debug mode is going to save your sanity, because it is also available in the preview window.
Sounds like this has happened to Heath a bunch of times. And where he made a mistake, we are going to learn. So debug mode, definitely use that when shit gets confusing in the future.
Let's play our game, and I'll show you how useful that is. Click on preview to play our game, and debug mode is up here in the upper left. We can turn it on right now, but in menus that only contain images and no actual objects, there are no collision shapes. Now, later in that tips, tricks, and hacks video I mentioned, I'll show you how to create a live background scene in your game in the main menu.
Yeah, that sounds cool.
For now, we only have images in our menu.
Yeah,
so
that's cool too.
Let's play it and see what debug mode does for us. So if there was something you had in the middle of the screen,
that looks cool.
Keep hitting, even if you had a completely invisible object. The collision shape will still show. This is extremely helpful.
Opacity 0.
Testing. With debug mode off, you can see that we cannot see what we keep dying on, but we can turn on debug mode in the upper left, and oh yeah, we set a giant invisible mountain in our path. I forgot. Now, as silly as that might seem, it's going to happen, I guarantee.
Oh, that's a bug.
So debug mode will save
it's not.
sanity one day.
Hold up. Save. I don't know if you saw that little weird. Maybe that was supposed to do that. Maybe that wasn't. Save. Buildbox. I've had it crash. I think I have said this before. So yeah, I just want to save it, and I'm gonna actually set my timer every 15 minutes to remind me to save. Hold on. Shit. I'm gonna have to cut this out. Okay, back to where we were. Hit play.
It's a very helpful tool. So that's the lowdown on collision shapes and debug mode.
Get the
Let's
LD.
bring in a new enemy so we can discuss object settings in detail. This will make the world and character settings we discuss in part 3 make much more sense and get you prepared for the actual building of your levels in Buildbox.
I like it.
So remember, Buildbox is drag and drop, and in part 1, we dropped in a sequence of PNG images for our character's default animation.
Yep.
So to bring in a new enemy, all we're going to do is select its entire default animation sequence and just drag the entire sequence into Buildbox. Buildbox will present us with the drag and drop wheel, and we just drop it on the object option, and Buildbox will create our new enemy object complete with the animation sequence as its default animation. Let's select our new object in the Assets panel to the far left and bring up its global options in the Options panel to the far right.
Whoa, Heath. Let's hold on. My computer's doing this. Did I save it? I saved it. Right? Don't crash. Computer's been crashing lately. Yeah, I updated some shit. Oh, perfect. Oh, that looks cool. That's not the same. Ball enemy, square enemy. Okay, let's go ahead and grab the square enemy so we can stay with Heath. The Rainbow Wheel of Death. It's cool. This is where you practice patience. And just glad that I'm not programming, because I've tried to learn some code and that shit was tough. Okay, yeah, can I like delete this ball? Or I just don't want him to be here. Yep. Yeah, I don't like what do I do with you? Can I hit delete? Delete. Yeah, I obviously, yeah, I know what I'm doing. Alright.
And let's edit its collision shape. Having the option to choose between a poly...
Oh, I just wanted to note, the enemy is still over here in the objects panel, so I could probably, I'm thinking just bring him on when I want. Yeah, see, so that's cool. Now let's go here and continue.
On shape in a circular shape, I think the circle would work best with this enemy. Let's have a look at our new enemy in our game. He's doing his thing there, being his bad self, rotating around in a death swirl of spikes, but you'll notice if we hit it, it doesn't kill us. So let's make sure he is set up as an enemy that we have to avoid. We do this...
Hold on, I want to see if I can make like, okay, so is it, yeah, so that kind of works, right? Oh, but then let's get like spaces over here. What did he do? He said circle? Like this? Yeah. Is that what he did? What'd you do, Heath?
Let's have a look at our new enemy in our game.
Yeah, looks good.
He's doing his thing there, being his bad self, rotating around in a death swirl of spikes, but you'll notice if we hit it, it doesn't kill us. So let's make sure he is set up as an enemy that we have to avoid. We do this by changing the object's properties by selecting the object and revealing the options in the Options panel. We already selected our new object in the Assets panel, and that brought up the global options. But now, to get the enemy to behave as we see fit in one of our scenes in the game, we select the enemy in the scene. So select the object we want to modify to bring up the object.
No, this is good because I was selecting this over here. And I thought you want to do it here, but it looks like you want to do it here. In the scene. This is the scene. Like, Gotta get that lingo down.
Properties in the options panel. The first menu here gives us some presets to use. We'll likely play with these as we design Glitch, but for this object we want it to be an enemy. So let's select enemy. Now we could make this a physics object so that the world set.
The manual, Buildbox Manual 2.0 that I referenced in the first video has a description of each of these, I believe. Yeah, and I just want to show you because it's right there. Support. Support. Guides. And then this one right here. Let's download that. And here it is, and then you just scroll. I totally printed out this whole thing. I'm still reading it because it's like 100+ pages, which isn't bad. Yeah, so here you see the different types of games, and then well, it goes through all of those in detail. So you're gonna want to know. Oh, I'm gonna want to know all of these little things. So that's why I'm reading it. Okay, let's go back.
Which we will get into in part 3 will affect its behavior. But I'm going to leave this fixed so we can go over the movement settings in just a moment. So as I click on the enemy and drag him around, you can see the position settings change. The position is, of course, the position of the object in the scene. The same with the rotation. As I click and drag the rotation handle,
and the scale,
changing the options panel. Now understand that we can change options to be precise, or you can design by look and feel by clicking and dragging. It's all up to you. But let's go ahead and change that rotation back to be precisely 0. Now you can see it's the same with the scale. As I grab the handles and move it around, the scale changes in the options panel. But notice the flip to negative scale.
I like that.
We're actually going to use this later, so keep that in mind. But for now, let's change it back to 1 to 1. We can also change the opacity. So maybe we want this object to be see-through but not invisible. We could just make it say 0.2 for 20%, but we're going to change it back and use 1. Now, if we wanted to, we could give this new enemy movement. So as it is now, it is just a fixed object in our scene, running its animation, set up as an enemy, and we'll need to avoid it.
How does movement work?
But we could go even one step further and give it movement. So let's talk about the movement settings, starting with linear velocity. The linear velocity settings are set up with the first row of variables representing the x-axis and the second row of variables representing the y-axis. You can also see 2 columns for these variables, and I'll
Those are
use
ranges.
that column after we discuss this first column. So to get started on some of these movement settings, let's put a -3 in the x-axis, and we will see our enemy move at that speed in the negative direction on the x-axis. The higher the number, the faster he'll move. There he goes, just a spinning death swirl of spikes out for a stroll as they do. But let's move that -3 to the y-axis and have a look at that. You can see he's moving down now. If we make it a +3, he'll move up with our game direction, and we could even use this in a creative way. If we make him fast enough, say 13, he will stay on the screen.
Ooh, that's
increasing the difficulty.
Hold on, what did I do? Oh, I was not selecting the enemy. I had selected the wall. Let's hit this lock button because I don't want to do that. -3, 5, 10's like, I don't know if this does like -10 or, I guess we'll see. What? Play. If it moves, we should still be able to, yeah, so he's just going all over the place. It's just one? I don't know.
By increasing the amount of time our player needs to avoid.
Oh, what? How'd you get 2?
Now, still
Did I
on
have 2?
this first column, the angular velocity is a unique setting, and the best way I can explain what it does is it puts an object into orbit. Let me show you what I mean. Let's put 100 in the angular velocity and see how it behaves. See how it looks like it's in orbit around an invisible force? The higher the number we put in there, the tighter the orbit. So
that's
if
cool.
we put in a very low number, like 4, it will have a giant orbit and give a neat arc to its movement.
What if you do a smaller number, like 500?
The first column was simple. Put exact numbers in there, and when we come across our enemy, he will behave under those exact guidelines. The second column, however, are guidelines for randomness. For example, if we reset all the variables in the first column to 0 and put a 10 in the x-axis randomizer in that second column, our enemy will now choose a speed 10 units on either side of 0. So between -10 and
I like it.
10. And it will be a random number every time the enemy appears. Let's duplicate our enemy and see how 3 different versions choose their random number. I'm just using A to duplicate the object to the left. Remember, you can use W, A, S, or D to duplicate objects in scenes. And I'm holding Shift while I drag to keep them in a nice line. So now let's see how the random velocities look. You can see all 3 are choosing random speeds between -10 and +10 along that x-axis. The column 2 randomizer is also the same for the y-axis row and the angular velocity row. So let's delete our duplicates and change the original by adding 10 in the y-axis row.
Slow down. Oh wait, this one. That's cool. So is it 3 of them or 4? Where is the 4th one coming from? Did I accidentally make another enemy? 1, 2, 3, 4. What? 1, 2, 3, 4. Ah. Made that was a test, and I passed. Now, what were you saying, Heath?
Randomizer, and 15 in the angular velocity randomizer, so we get a nice giant random arc to its orbit between -15 and +15.
What? Did you get rid of the other ones?
Also the same for the y-axis row and the angular velocity row. So let's delete our duplicates and change the original by adding 10 in the y-axis randomizer and 15 in the angular velocity randomizer, so we get a nice giant random arc to its orbit between -15 and +15, and duplicate it using A, holding Shift to drag, and let's have a few good looks at their behavior now. Some of the enemies are going up, some of them are going down, some left, some right, and this can create surprise in your game. Now, these numbers work well for our game, but if I put a 50 in the x-axis setting and leave that 10 in the randomizer, that means the character will choose a random number, 10 units on either side of 50, so essentially anywhere between 40 and 60. So there are creative ways to use that randomizer when the time comes. Let's get it back to all zeros in the left column and 10, 10, and 15 in the randomizer column. So that covers movement fairly well. There are two more settings here, one for collision type. Ours is an enemy, so we want to leave it to collide. But we could set it up to have its collision shape ignored if we wanted to, but we will leave it on collide. And then the destroy type. And since it is an enemy, we want at minimum to say destroy character.
I could destroy it all.
Have this enemy lay waste to anything it touches using destroy all. And that might work.
So it could kill the player, it could kill, you could use like a bullet.
Okay, let's talk about object components. There are options you can add to any object in the game. The first is wake up. The wake up component allows objects to lay dormant unless we get either close to them or touch them. Since these objects are enemies, collision-based wake up won't make...
Wait, I don't see wake up. Add component? Wake up. Okay. Must have missed that. Must have missed that.
Any sense, because we'll just die at the moment of collision. But if this was, say, a platform that we wanted to jump on and have it move after we touched it, then this is the setting that would allow for that game mechanic.
Okay.
But for our enemy, we want distance-based. Distance-based is measured in pixels, so if we wanted this enemy to lay dormant until we were 300 pixels away, we would put 300 in this wake-up distance setting. So now when we play our game, the enemy lays dormant, running its default animation until we reach that 300 pixel
Should I
threshold.
save it?
Then it takes off using the random numbers we gave it.
Oh.
I think that 300 pixels is perfect. It's close enough to be a surprise, and with the random numbers fairly low in the movement settings, it's a nice difficulty to start with. So let's say we want our enemy to go back to being dormant after we get, say, 200 pixels away.
Sure,
We
why
just
not?
enable this sleep setting here by selecting distance based and put 200 in the sleep distance. Now when we play our game, the enemy will go back to being dormant while we scoot off to safety. What's interesting is if our enemy takes off away from us when it wakes and gets to that 200 pixel threshold, it will stop dead and now be in our way, making for an additional avoidance mechanic. So it's an elegant way to achieve more than one mechanic using this sleep option.
But it stays asleep.
Creative things with this wake up component. Now let's delete this wake up component, and I'll show you the other component you can add to objects in the game, the spawner component. As you can see, we have the same two-column structure to the settings. So exact behavior in that left column, random behavior on the right column. And this is measured in seconds. So if we leave the spawner to its default, let's see what happens. As you can see, it spawns additional copies of itself. And with that 1 in the settings, it will spawn every 1 second.
Okay.
If we set a very low number, say 0.2 seconds, it unleashes an army of swirling death at probably an unfair pace. So let's use this setting wisely.
Wait, what was that, 0.2?
One thing you'll notice now is the original does not show when you add a spawner component. Only the spawner
I don't like that.
components will show. If we had our enemy spawning off screen and then coming into play, that wouldn't matter. But I'll let you in on an early tip, trick, and hack right here. We can select the enemy and press Ctrl-C or Command-C to copy it, and then Ctrl-V or Command-V to paste it. You can copy and paste any object into any scene, anywhere, in any world. Now with this copy, we just take the spawner out, remove the movement settings, and it's simply an overlay for the spawned versions behind it. If we hide it in the scene tree, you can see the version with the spawner component has that arrow symbol as a way to show that it has a live spawner component. Let's make sure we unhide it so it's visible in our game.
I like it.
That's an early tip, trick, and hack for you. This will make it nice so that we can see where our spawning enemy is. Alright.
I think the more I do figure out Buildbox, it's all about the trick, tips, and hacks. And note to self. Oh, I'm gonna make a note. Keep track of all the tips, tricks, and hacks for Buildbox. Buildbox with the I. Okay.
So let's put a 5 in the random column for our spawner component and see how the enemy behaves. As you can see, it's choosing a random time between 0 and 5 seconds, and it chooses that number at the current. See how the enemy behaves.
5, okay. So that means -5 to 5, but -5 means no, any negative is not a number of spawners, okay.
As you can see, it's choosing a random time between 0 and 5 seconds.
Oh,
and it chooses that
time, spawn
time
rate.
Spawns.
Oh, I was thinking number of spawns.
Of really quick spawns, and then a string of some that might take the whole 5 seconds. It will be completely random. Also, there are settings here where we can set the object to only spawn when we are shooting or jumping, but we will just leave it at permanent, meaning nothing affects its ability to spawn except for it being awake. Speaking of, let's combine the two components. Let's get our wake settings back to 300 pixels to wake, and this time 300 pixels to sleep. And let's see what we get here. I think we made this enemy quite lively, and we didn't even write a single line of code to do it.
Yeah, I like that.
Watch this video as many times as you need to, following along in Buildbox, because although it might have been a lot of information to give you, it really is simple once you've got your hands on it and work with those numbers. It's really easy to bring your
That's cool. I like that.
Buildbox. In the next video, we are going to get into the world settings and character settings, and we are going to actually build more levels for Glitch. Remember, if you need help with anything you see in this series, you can find more helpful videos at buildbox.com/tutorials. There is a link on the welcome screen to take you there whenever you start Buildbox. So come on back for the next video.
Cool. That was great. That was great. You know, what I don't get is like the spawn rate. So, like, the spawn rate is 0 to 5, but 0.2 is like 0.2 seconds, and there's like a shit ton. So, like, is it just completely random? Can it be 0.3? Does 0.3 have the same randomness as, let's say, 4? My guess is yes. And so depending on what the spawn rate is, let's say 0.3, and it's a bunch, and then it continues, and the next one is like a random number, say 3, and then 3 seconds. So yeah, I think that's how it works. Okay, cool. Great second video, and see you on the third.